G'day and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, I want to show you a series of very simple calf muscle strength progression exercises that anyone can do if you're trying to rebuild strong, robust calves after a calf injury, or you're just looking to improve the function of your calf muscles as a whole. We want to make sure that we run every exercise that we're about to go through three very simple standards. The first thing that you need to pay attention to is obviously whether you get any pain. And now if you're not recovering from an injury and you just want stronger calves, that isn't necessarily something that you need to pay attention to. But for those that are recovering, it's really important that as we go through these, that you do so within a very reasonable window of what feels comfortable for you. Obviously, if you don't, then you run the risk of obviously re-aggravating that injury, or at the very least, making this process take longer if your body does get a little bit inflamed or irritated throughout that process. The second and third ideas sort of play off each other, and they are to make sure that your technique is controlled and stable, and that you can generate a healthy dose of fatigue. Because conceptually, if I say to you that you need to do 3 sets of 8 to 12 reps, and you feel you get to 12 reps, your technique remains perfect, but you haven't generated any fatigue, then logically it's probably time to make that exercise harder or progress to the next variation. Similarly, if you're progressing through these exercises and you get to 5 or 6 reps and you feel a lot of fatigue, but your technique falls apart, then again, that suggests that the level that you're at is too hard for where you're at currently. So by thinking of how well your technique holds up and how much fatigue you're happy to generate, you'll very quickly understand how easy or hard each exercise is at every point in time that you do them throughout the course of these progressions. And if we can run both of those ideas through the filter of does it also generate pain or not, then again, you've got a very strong set of ideas to help navigate you through this as quickly and as optimally as possible. So with that in mind, the first exercise is again, very simple like a lot of these, and it's essentially doing some double leg calf raises. Now, the first place to start with this is obviously on a flat surface, barefoot if possible. If you're recovering from some calf pain, like a calf tear, then it might be worthwhile doing it in heeled shoes just to shorten the range of motion a little bit. Obviously, if you have torn your calf, the deeper the range of motion that you get into, especially when we get to doing these off a step in a second, you may not have the capacity to tolerate that yet, but again, you will know when it's time to progress down to the depths of that extra range when your body tells you that you're ready. But for most people, you'll feel that you can definitely start on the flat ground. You want to be up nice and tall, obviously, and then just coming straight up and down, lifting your heels up as high as you feel you can, then coming down again. What I tend to say to my patients is we want to make sure that as you come up and down, that you're doing so through the line of about your second toe, making sure that it is very controlled all the way up and all the way down. We don't want you to force your way up and then just flop down again. You've got to be able to control that movement in order to progress past this very simple basic exercise. Again, 3 sets of 8 to 12 is a reasonable amount to start with. Before we progress you on, we also need to recognize that your calf muscle isn't just your big, thick gastrocnemius muscle that everyone can tend to see. That gastrocnemius muscle tends to work best when your knees are straight. We also have a second muscle underneath that gastroc called your soleus. And that soleus muscle tends to be targeted better when you have a bend in your knees. What we want you to do is we want you to lock those knees into a comfortable position and then imagine that you're just driving your heels up and down off the ground. Again, we don't want you to flop down like I did the first time. We want you to come up again through that second toe area and then slowly control it obviously on the way down. And again, once you feel you've been able to master the gastroc and the soleus versions of that double leg calf raise and your technique holds together, and you can also generate some great fatigue without pain, sometimes it's better to go looking for deeper ranges of motion before moving to single leg exercises. So if you feel ready to progress, we can get you to stand on the edge of a step. Again, starting with your gastroc version, we can get you to come up obviously as high as you can through that second toe, but then we want to make sure that when we come down, that we lower you down as deep as you feel comfortable, feeling that end range stretch and then coming back up again. Now, obviously when we do the soleus version of this, you might find it's a little bit more awkward. We still want to get you deep into that exercise as we possibly can, making sure that we're still going through that second toe, not rolling outwards, not rolling inwards, not turning your foot outwards. And same thing as before, once you feel like you're at the stage we can do a couple of sets of 8 to 12 in a very controlled way and you feel like there's no pain obviously, then it's the great time to progress to these single leg exercises. When it's time to think about about progressing to one leg, all you need to think about is shifting your body weight as far across to the side that you're about to do as you feel comfortable. If you're just naturally loading it up with as much weight as you feel comfortable, then you'll naturally get to the stage where you end up on one leg eventually. And then obviously, as you start to use weight, you want to start at something very small, maybe a couple of pounds, couple of kilos, then go through that same process again of just loading it up, making sure that you feel that your technique is controlled and that it's a respectful level of fatigue at about that 3 sets to 8 to 12. And then once you feel you've mastered the very strict, generic gastroc and soleus versions of these progressions, we then want to start to think about how do we get you back to sport and activity. Just doing isolated calf strength exercises can obviously be very helpful and build a very strong, robust platform to begin with. But the demands of something like running, jumping are a little bit beyond just the very structured, isolated exercises that we've just been through. So what we need to progress to next are just the more dynamic and more functionally relevant exercises. So for me, clinically as a physio, one of the simplest ways to bridge the gap between structured strength exercises and things like running and jumping is just something as simple as skipping. Now, obviously, if you had a skipping rope, you can definitely do that. But the idea of feeling up nice and tall with your belly drawn in and just gently sort of imagining that you're skipping over that imaginary rope is just a nice way to build in some of that functional retraining. Doing 30 seconds, 60 seconds, 2 minutes of this is a really great way to get your calf muscles conditioned or reconditioned to the demands of running and jumping in a way that traditional strength exercises maybe don't give you. And then once you find that you're able to tolerate that and you've done it enough that you've given yourself the confidence that you maybe need to make it a little bit harder, we then want to progress you from your two-legged to your single-legged exercise. So same thing, we want to get you to the stage where you can do 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes without feeling like it's generating any of the discomfort that you may have had previously, but still really giving you that healthy fatigue that tells your brain that it needs to come back stronger the next time. Because once you can tolerate single leg hopping, we can then start to look at other things like jumping and bounding at the same time. But being comfortable progressing to single leg hopping, it's very, very closely related to what you need to do when you are running, jumping, and anything in between. But hopefully, as you can appreciate, if we can start you at a very basic level doing your gastroc strength on the ground, soleus strength at the same time, and then progress you to a version that allows you to get down deeper into your ranges of motion, and then begin working more towards single leg strength and functional exercises, then again, it's a relatively logical and intuitive progression back to the things that you need to do if you've hurt yourself, but also trying to build that very respectful basic platform that may help you improve your calf muscle function for the things that you want to do day to day. And if you can always have in the back of your mind that you've got to listen to your body. Does it give you any symptoms or any pain that you need to pay attention to? Do you feel like the exercise is ultimately controlled by you? And you're generating a really healthy fatigue to tell your brain that it needs to get better. If you're constantly looking for that balance with each exercise you do each day, you'll ultimately be getting through this process as quickly and as optimally as your body will let you. But as always, I sincerely hope that that was helpful and beneficial. And I hope to see you next time. Bye.